Hello there and welcome to Cansanity. It's cranberry season, and so I thought I would make some cranberry sauce with rum and spices. So let's get started. Okay, for the sauce you're going to need 8 cups of cranberries that you've rinsed and picked through and picked out any of the cranberries that are overripe. And just save the nicest cranberries for your sauce. So I have 8 cups in each of these bowls. And then you're going to need 2 whole peeled chopped apples, and so I'll have to do that in a minute. And then you're going to need 2 cups of sugar, 3/4 cups of rum, 1.5 cups of water, and then spices, whole spices, cinnamon, allspice, and cloves. And so the first thing we have to do is make a spice bag. Okay, to make a spice bag, I buy cheesecloth by the bolt, and so when it comes off the bolt, it comes off 2-ply like this. And to make a spice bag, you need to double that again. So do that, and then pile your spices in the middle. And so I have cinnamon, which I have 3 sticks of cinnamon that I just broke in half. And then I have 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, so just pile that in there, and 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. And then all you do is bring up the edges, and then you're going to twist it really close to the spices, because then you're going to tie it. So you want to make sure that it doesn't come undone. So twist it up like that, and then now you're going to tie it. And tie it really securely, so tie it in a real tight knot, and then tie it again. And then now all you're going to do is trim off the excess, because all this excess fabric will just soak up the liquid in your whatever you're making. And in this case we're flavoring our simple syrup, and so cut off all that excess. There you go, and that's your spice bag. Okay, let's get started. We're going to add 2 cups of sugar, our spice bag, and our 1.5 cups of water. Now we're going to stir that up. And we're going to put that on the stove and bring that to a boil and boil it for 5 minutes. So while my simple syrup is coming up to a boil, I'm just going to peel my apples and then chop them up for the sauce. Okay, so I'm just showing you that you don't need to be super precise about the size of the apples, because you're going to mash this in the end once it's cooked with the cranberries. So you just want to chop them up. Just medium dice. Okay, so this simple syrup has cooked for simmered for 5 minutes. So now I'm just going to turn the heat up, and I'm going to add my 8 cups of cranberries. And my apples that have been diced. I'm just going to turn up the heat again and just stir that and get that cooking. And I'm going to cook that for 5 minutes until the cranberries start to burst open. Okay, so the 5 minutes is up, and I'm just going to temporarily remove the spice bag so that I can mash up this fruit a bit. So take a potato masher and mash it up. Just make sure that those cranberries are really coming apart. Once that's mashed, looks good. Now I'm going to add the spice bag back and a 3/4 cup of rum. Now this is going to cool down your liquid somewhat, so just stir that around, and then you want to make sure this comes up to a full boil before you put it in your jar. So I'm just going to cook this a little bit just to make sure that it's at a full boil, and then I'm going to take the spice bag out, and then I'm going to fill my jars. Okay, so now we're going to fill the jars. Just going to stir that a little bit. Okay. Now I have my ladle and my funnel and my plastic debubbler and some spoons in case I need them all in boiling hot water, just to make sure that it's sterile when I'm going to use it. And I'm going to start filling the jars. I'll probably only end up getting about 6, so you're going to fill them to within a 1/4 inch headspace. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm just using this sterilized spoon just to stir down the and take out any air. So a little bit of extra here. So I ended up with 6 250 ml jars and 125. I'll just keep the 125 out. I'm not going to bother processing it because I'll just use that on fresh. And I like to put this on toast. You can have it as a side with your turkey or chicken or pork. I'm not using my plastic debubbler because I'm just stirring the sauce down with my spoon is sufficient. So just use this smaller spoon to take out. And just make sure that I get that headspace correct, which is a 1/4 inch headspace. Okay, now I just need to wipe down the rims with a paper towel that's dampened with boiling hot water. You don't want to leave any sauce on the rim because that could prevent your seal. And just check your headspace again, and if you need to add some more filling to get to 1/4 inch headspace, then do so. Adjust this a little bit here. And then take your snap lids and put them in your hot water, and they just need to be in that hot water for 30 seconds to soften the seal. Now, just to mention, I did sterilize my jars and my rings in my oven at 225 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes prior to filling the jars. And then you're going to put your rings on just a fingertip tight. Don't use any rings that have any dents in them because it might prevent your seal. Just a fingertip tight. Okay, now we'll just put them in the canning pot. My canning pot is at a full glowing boil. And I'm going to put my jars so that they're 1 inch away from the pot and 1 inch apart from each other, and 1 inch above of water that is above each, above the jars. How that hurt. Okay, and then this is pretty full. I didn't need to fill this so full, but and now I put an empty jar in the center, and that just helps keep these jars upright. So that's good. Now I'll put the lid on, and I'll let that come to a full boil. Once the steam is coming out of my vents of this pot actually has an indicator that when it goes into the green, it's at the right temperature, but that's just an indicator. All pots you have to watch to make sure that there's steam coming out of the vents or escaping the sides of your pot. Okay, so my pot is at a rolling boil. The steam is coming out of my steam vents and my indicator is in green. So I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes. Okay, so my cranberry sauce is finished processing, and so I shut the canning pot off and I've set the timer for another 5 minutes. When that 5 minutes is up, I will take the jars out of the pot. Okay, so my timer just went off, so I'll just take these out of the pot. And don't grab the rings, just grab the jar and lift it straight up. Don't worry about the water that's on the top of the jar, that will just evaporate. Okay, so my cranberry sauce is out of the pot, and I'm happy to say that all 6 sealed. Now, this is processed for 15 minutes, so the sauce really gets up to a really good boil inside the jars. So you're going to have some of the sauce boil out of the jars once you remove it. Don't worry about that. That's typical. That's one of the reasons why you shut off the pot and let it rest for 15 minutes. That's to reduce the amount of liquid that comes out of your jars. But if you have a little bit of sauce that spills out, don't worry about that. It'll still seal. And so I ended up with 5 of my 6 sealing, and so I'll just keep the 6th one and pop it into the fridge. Now I realized when I made this recipe that I ended up with only 2 ounces of rum left, and so I whipped together a dark and stormy, which is 2 ounces of rum and 3.5 ounces of ginger beer. So why is always the rum gone? Because of the cranberry sauce and the dark and stormy. Now I'm just going to have some of the sauce on a cracker where I've just warmed some goat cheese and spread that on there. Warmed it so that it's spreadable. And then look at that treat. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Have a great day.